The car finally bumped down the hidden, unpaved track. Trees pressed close, their branches like skeletal arms. Stillwater Pine's cabin was a dark shape standing against a bruised evening sky. This was meant to be their escape from city noise. 4 friends: Maya, Liam, Chloe, and Ben. They craved peace and quiet. But the air already felt heavy here. An old, forgotten silence clung to this isolated place. It was the kind of silence that listens intently. A chill wind whispered through the tall dark pines, carrying no birdsong, only an unspoken warning. The cabin itself was ancient, its logs dark with many years of weather, streaked with green moss. The windows were like vacant eyes, staring out at the newcomers. The porch groaned under their weight as they stepped onto it. A single rusted lantern swung gently from a hook, creaking with each small movement. Ben fumbled with the heavy iron key which grated loudly in the old lock. Inside, dust lay thick on every surface, the scent of damp wood and old fires filled the air, and something else, something faintly metallic, faintly sweet. It was a smell of secrets, secrets best left undisturbed by anyone. Stillwater Lake lay before them, a vast expanse of dark, unnervingly calm water. It reflected the dying sun like a sheet of polished obsidian. Tall, somber pines ringed its shores like silent mourners, standing guard over the lake's secrets. No ripples disturbed its glassy surface. No fish jumped to break the stillness. No insects skimmed its mirror-like face. It was beautiful, yes, in a stark way, but its beauty was cold. It felt predatory, as if the lake itself was holding its breath, waiting for them to come closer to its edge. They tried to shake off the strange gloom. Forced laughter echoed unnaturally in the vast quiet of the woods. They unpacked their bags, assigned rooms to each other, and claimed beds in the dusty rooms. Liam, ever the optimist, tried to make a few jokes, but his humor felt hollow here. Chloe nervously fiddled with her phone, searching for a signal that simply wasn't there. Maya looked out at the lake, a shiver tracing its way down her spine. Ben started a fire in the old stone fireplace. Its crackle was a small, brave defiance against the encroaching dark. But the unease remained. A 5th unwelcome guest had joined them. Morning light did little to dispel the lake's oppressive aura. The sun shone brightly in a clear sky, but the water remained dark, its depths entirely impenetrable to the light. Liam, restless and always bold, was the first to suggest exploring it. He had brought his diving mask and fins. There could be anything down there, he had said, his eyes bright with the thrill of adventure. He always needed to know what lay hidden from view. He couldn't resist a mystery, no matter how ominous the whispers around it might be. The others felt a pull, too, a morbid curiosity that mingled uncomfortably with their growing fear. He waded into the shockingly cold water, gasping as the chill bit into his skin, then he plunged beneath the still dark surface. Maya, Ben and Chloe watched him from the decaying wooden jetty. Its planks felt soft under their feet. Bubbles rose to the surface, then nothing. The minutes stretched out, long and tense. Chloe chewed her lip nervously. Should he be down that long, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Just as Ben started to voice his own concern, Liam burst from the water. He was pale, his breath coming in ragged, desperate gasps. His eyes, usually full of mirth, were wide with something else. Shock, disbelief, terror. "There's something! Down there!" he stammered, pushing his wet hair from his pale face. "Something big. Metal. It's not a boat wreck. It's a door." A door? At the bottom of a remote, isolated lake? It sounded completely insane, utterly impossible. Yet Liam was insistent. He described its strange, dark sheen and how it seemed untouched by time or water, as if it had been placed there only yesterday. He said it felt wrong, terribly wrong. He had to show them. He needed them to see it. He needed them to prove he wasn't imagining things, or going mad. Ben and Maya exchanged a look, their apprehension warring with a sudden, sharp thrill of the unknown. They agreed to go down with him. Chloe refused flatly, her face ashen. "I'm not going anywhere near that," she stated, her voice trembling uncontrollably. The descent into the lake was chilling. The water grew colder, darker with every foot they went down. Visibility lessened dramatically. Then, through the murky green haze, they saw it. Liam was right. A massive black door stood upright on the silty lakebed. Ornate carvings, too alien to decipher, covered its entire surface. It radiated an ancient coldness, a silent, potent invitation to a place unknown. That night the old cabin offered no sanctuary from their fears. Sleep was a battlefield filled with horrifying, vivid images. Maya dreamt she was trapped in the cold, dark lake, icy hands, unseen but terrifyingly strong, pulling her down. down towards the waiting silent door. Pale, contorted faces with empty staring eyes swirled in the black water around her. They whispered her name, a chorus of the damned beckoning her to join them. She woke with a silent scream lodged in her throat, her body drenched in a cold sweat. The dream clung to her like slimy lakeweed. It felt far too real. Ben lay awake for hours, listening to the old cabin groan and settle around them. Then he heard it clearly. A distinct scratching sound. It was rhythmic, persistent. It seemed to come from beneath the floorboards right under his bed, like something with long, sharp claws, something desperate to get in, or perhaps something desperate to get out. He grabbed a flashlight from the nightstand, his heart pounding in his chest. He searched everywhere he could think of. He found nothing. No rats, no squirrels, no animals of any kind. But as soon as he lay back down, the scratching resumed, louder this time, more deliberate, a chilling, patient sound in the oppressive darkness. Chloe kept seeing things out of the corner of her eye, fleeting movements at the very edge of her vision, tall, slender shadows that darted between the trees near the lake. They were too quick, too unnatural to be real. Inside the cabin, cold spots drifted through the rooms. She felt them even when she was near the blazing fireplace. She felt a constant prickling on her skin, the unmistakable sensation of being watched, intently, malevolently. The air in the cabin grew thick, almost unbreathable. It was heavy with an unseen presence, a presence that seemed to feed on their growing, unspoken fear. Liam's fascination with the underwater door intensified. It quickly became a dangerous, all-consuming obsession. He barely ate any food. He hardly slept at all. He spent hours just staring out at the lake, his gaze fixed on the spot where the door lay hidden beneath the surface. He filled a notepad with frantic, detailed sketches of its alien carvings. He spoke of it constantly, his voice low and intense. "It's calling to me," he confessed to Maya one afternoon, his eyes feverish and unfocused. "I can hear it. It wants us to open it." The lake's dark secret was consuming him, dragging him down. Their meager supplies of food and drink dwindled quickly. Maya and Ben volunteered for a trip to the nearest village. It was a good hour's drive away, over rough roads. The place, when they finally found it, was little more than a handful of shuttered, dilapidated buildings. It was a forgotten hamlet, clinging precariously to the edge of the vast wilderness. Its few visible inhabitants watched them pass, their eyes filled with suspicion and an unwelcoming coldness. In the dim, cluttered general store, the air was stale, smelling of disuse and unspoken, lingering fears. They asked the proprietor about Stillwater Lake, hoping for some history, for some reassurance. The old storekeeper, a man named Silas, had eyes like chips of winter ice. He visibly stiffened at their question, his already grim face darkened further. "Stillwater?" he rasped, his voice sounding like dry leaves skittering across cold stone. "Best you young folks stay away from that place." He leaned closer across the counter, his breath smelling of strong coffee and something else, something acrid and unpleasant. "That lake, it ain't natural. It takes things, people. They go up there, they don't always come back." His words were heavy, carrying a grim, undeniable certainty. He had seen too much, he wouldn't look them directly in the eye. He just polished a dusty countertop with a slow, deliberate motion. "Locals know to leave it be," he continued, his voice dropping to a near whisper, making his words even more chilling. "There's a door down there, some say. Some old tales mention it, a passage, to somewhere folks ain't meant to go." He paused for a long moment, then he added, his voice barely audible, "Some doors are best left unopened, some secrets best left to the deep. The silence of that lake, it ain't empty." His warning was stark, undeniable, and terrifying. They drove back to the cabin in a heavy silence, the old man's chilling words echoing in the car. The picturesque landscape now seemed menacing, threatening. They relayed Silas's story to Liam and Chloe. Chloe, already on edge, was now frantic with fear. "We have to leave, now, tonight," she pleaded, her voice rising in panic. But Liam, his eyes burning with an almost religious, fanatical fervor, was completely unmoved. The warning acted as fuel to his already raging obsession. "He doesn't understand," Liam muttered, shaking his head. "It's not a grave, it's a discovery, a new world. He was lost to them, lost to the door." Section 5. Vanished into the depths, Liam's fate. The following dawn broke gray and deeply ominous. An unnatural stillness hung heavy in the air. Liam was not in his room. His bed was neatly made, too neatly, A single folded piece of paper lay on his pillow. His diving gear, which he had meticulously cleaned the night before, was gone. Maya's heart turned to ice in her chest. The note was short, it was chillingly casual. Gone to take a closer look at the door. Try to open it. Don't worry, Liam. Worry? Panic was a tidal wave. It threatened to drown them all. How could he be so reckless? They raced to the lake's edge. Their feet pounded on the damp earth. The water was a sheet of dark, unreadable glass. There was no sign of Liam, no ripples on the surface, just that awful, waiting silence. Ben, his face a mask of grim resolve, quickly donned his own diving gear. Maya helped him. Her hands were trembling so badly she could hardly fasten the straps. "Find him, Ben, please find him," she whispered, her voice choked with tears. Chloe stood a little way off. Her arms were wrapped tightly around herself. Tears streamed down her pale face. She kept whispering his name. Her voice was lost in the vast indifference of the landscape. Ben descended into the frigid, murky gloom. The visibility was worse than before. The water was thick with swirling silt, disturbed by something. He searched desperately. His flashlight beam cut feeble swaths through the oppressive darkness. He found the door. It seemed to loom larger now. Its carvings appeared more pronounced, more sinister. But of Liam there was no trace at all. No dropped fin, no discarded mask, nothing, just the silent, implacable door. It felt like a tombstone. Liam was gone, utterly and completely gone, swallowed by the lake. Ben surfaced, his face etched with despair and exhaustion. "He's not there," he choked out, gasping for air. "He's just gone." The reality hit them with the force of a physical blow. Liam, their friend, so vibrant and full of life, had vanished. He had disappeared into the lake's cold, dark heart. The door. It had to be the door. Had he managed to open it? Had it taken him? The questions were unbearable. They couldn't just leave him. They couldn't abandon him to this place. A desperate, terrifying resolve began to form in their minds. They had to follow him. They had to know. Section 6. Through the obsidian portal, a world undone. Grief and a desperate sliver of hope warred within them. They couldn't call for help from the outside world. Who would believe their insane, terrifying story? The door was the only answer. It was the only path to Liam, or to understanding what happened to him. Ben would go first. He was the strongest swimmer among them. He was usually the most level-headed. Maya insisted on being his tether. A strong, thick rope was secured around his waist. The other end was clutched tightly in her and Chloe's trembling hands. He checked his gear one last time. His gaze met Maya's. An unspoken promise passed between them. Find Liam. Come back. He approached the immense dark door. It seemed to pulse with a subtle, almost sub-audible hum. He reached out a gloved hand. He pressed it against the cold, strangely smooth metal. There were no visible handles, no locks, no hinges. He pushed. To his utter astonishment, the massive slab of metal yielded. It swung inward silently. It did not open into more water. It opened into an abyss. A perfect, impenetrable blackness. A chilling gust of wind smelling of ancient dust and decay billowed out. It ruffled the lake's surface far above. It was a breath from another world. Ben hesitated for only a moment. With a last look back at the faint green glow of the lake water behind him, he plunged through the opening. He was no longer in water. He could breathe. The air was thin, cold, and incredibly foul. He ripped off his diving mask, gasping. He was in a narrow, circular tunnel. Its walls were not stone. They were something yielding, like packed earth or decomposing flesh. They were slick with a repulsive, glistening slime. The tunnel sloped downwards. It led into an even deeper, more profound darkness. Faint, indistinguishable whispers seemed to emanate from the very walls around him, calling his name. The tunnel twisted and turned. It was a disorienting journey into the unknown. The rope unspooled steadily behind him, their only connection to sanity. Then, the passage opened abruptly. He stumbled out into a vast, nightmarish cavern, or rather it was a grotesque parody of the forest above. Twisted skeletal trees clawed at a sickly phosphorescent green sky. The ground was soft beneath his feet, like damp ash. The air was thick with the smell of rot and utter despair. And in the distance he saw a faint, flickering light, like a malevolent will-o'-the-wisp. It was beckoning him deeper into this hellscape. Section 7. The cabin's true face. Illusions shattered. Ben stumbled towards the flickering light. His heart felt like a cold stone in his chest. It came from a structure. A cabin. Their cabin. But it was hideously transformed. The wood was blackened, rotting, and oozing a dark, viscid ichor. Strange, glowing symbols were carved deep into its decaying logs. They pulsed with a faint, unholy light. This was not the rustic retreat they had rented from the faded brochure. This was a place of profound, ancient evil, a trap, perfectly disguised in the world above. Its true, monstrous nature was revealed in this hellish, alternate dimension. It was a place of nightmares. The door creaked open under his touch. The sound was grating and unnatural in the dead silence. Inside, the horror intensified, beyond belief. The familiar layout of their cabin was there, but it was warped, corrupted, and defiled. Furniture was smashed into pieces. It was draped in cobwebs as thick as shrouds. Everything was coated in the same pulsating, living slime he had seen in the tunnel walls. A low moaning sound filled the air. It was a chorus of unimaginable suffering. And the smell, oh God, the smell. It was of stale blood, of raw fear, of something ancient and utterly inhuman. This place was a stomach, waiting to digest. Then he saw them. Huddled in the darkest corners of the room were figures. They were pale, emaciated, their limbs far too long, their joints bent at unnatural, impossible angles. Their eyes were huge, black, and devoid of any light or reason. They were not human, not anymore. And in the center of the room, strapped to a crude altar-like table of dark-stained stone, was Liam. He was unconscious. His face was a mask of terror, even in his deep sleep. The figures were gathered around him. Their long, skeletal fingers were caressing his skin. They were chanting in low, guttural voices. Ben understood with a sickening, chilling clarity. The cabin above, the picturesque lake, it was all a lure, a carefully constructed illusion designed to draw victims in. This place, this dark, twisted reflection, was its true reality. It was a feeding ground, a place of sacrifice to whatever monstrous ancient intelligences resided here. The door was not just a passage, it was a gullet, a mouth, and Liam was about to be consumed by it. A primal rage, born of terror and a fierce love for his friends, surged through Ben. He would not let them have him, not without a fight. Section 8. Flight from the Shadowlands, not all return. Liam! Ben roared, his voice raw with fury and desperation. He grabbed a heavy iron poker from the corrupted, slime-covered fireplace. The chanting stopped abruptly. The figures turned their empty black eyes towards him, slowly, deliberately, they hissed. The sound was like air escaping from a punctured lung. It was cold and venomous. They began to move towards him. Their distorted limbs carried them with an unnatural gliding grace. Ben didn't hesitate. He charged forward, swinging the poker wildly. He connected with something that felt both brittle and strangely yielding. One creature shrieked. It was a sound that scraped his nerves raw. It echoed in the vile space. He fought his way to the altar. The creature swiped at him with claws as sharp as razors. But his desperate fury gave him an unnatural strength. He smashed the crude restraints that were holding Liam to the stone table. He hauled his friend's limp body over his shoulder. Liam was terrifyingly light. He felt like a bundle of sticks. "Wake up, Liam! We have to go!" he yelled, shaking him roughly. Liam's eyes fluttered open. They were vacant at first, then they widened in sheer, uncomprehending terror as he saw the figures. They feed on fear," he managed to whisper. His voice was barely audible, raspy and weak. Ben half-dragged, half-carried Liam back towards the tunnel entrance. The creatures swarmed after them, their numbers seeming to multiply in the oppressive gloom. Their chilling hisses and guttural clicks echoed in the foul, heavy air. The tunnel felt impossibly long now. Each step was an agony. Liam was a dead weight, moaning softly with pain and terror. The whispers from the walls intensified. They tried to claw their way into Ben's mind. They promised rest. They promised an end to the struggle if he would just stop, just give in to the darkness. They reached the shimmering rectangle of the portal. Water, safety, their world. Ben shoved Liam through first. He saw Maya's terrified face on the other side. Her hands were outstretched, reaching for them. As Ben lunged for the opening, an icy grip closed around his ankle. One of the creatures, its face a mask of shadows and needle-like teeth, was pulling him back. He yelled, kicking frantically. Maya screamed his name from the other side. He felt himself slipping. Then, with a final, desperate surge of adrenaline, he twisted free. Raw pain shot up his leg. He tumbled through the portal, back into the cold water. Section 9. The Lingering Chill, a warning carved in fear. They burst from the lake surface, gasping, into the cold, clean air of their own world. Maya and Chloe dragged Ben and Liam onto the dock. Liam was conscious but shivering violently, uncontrollably. His eyes were wide and vacant, staring at nothing. Ben's leg throbbed where the creature had grabbed him. Dark, bloody gouges marked his skin, already beginning to swell. There was no thought of gear, of belongings, of anything but escape. They scrambled into the car, soaked and terrified beyond words. Ben slammed the car into gear and sped away from Stillwater Pines, away from the silent, watching lake. They never looked back. Not once. The miles couldn't erase the horror. The world outside seemed garish, too bright, too loud, after the oppressive gloom of that other place. But the darkness had followed them out. It clung to their souls like the lake's bone-deep chill. They tried to rationalize. They tried to explain what they had seen, what they had experienced. But words failed to capture the nightmare. How could they describe the twisted cabin, the monstrous figures, the sheer soul-crushing malevolence of that place? They had brushed against a reality that should not exist, and it had left its scars on them, deep invisible wounds that would never truly heal. Liam never recovered. The bright, adventurous spark in his eyes was extinguished forever. It was replaced by a permanent shadow of deep-seated fear. He was plagued by relentless, vivid nightmares. Waking screams often tore through the silence of the night. He saw the creatures in daylight, lurking in shadows, their whispers a constant, insidious torment in his mind. He withdrew from the world. He became a prisoner of his own haunted mind. The lake had claimed a part of him, a vital piece that could never be reclaimed from its dark, silent depths. The door under the water remained, waiting. This account is not for entertainment. It is not a thrilling story. It is an urgent, desperate warning to anyone who might read it. There are places in this world, hidden behind veils of beauty and tranquility, that are gateways. Gateways to unimaginable, indescribable horrors. If you ever find yourself by a lake too still, in a cabin too quiet, and feel an ancient dread settle upon you, flee. Do not investigate strange sounds. Do not be lured by mysterious discoveries. Some doors are meant to remain forever closed, for what lies beyond them is a darkness that hungers, and it is always waiting for new